At the outset, I would like to offer my humble pranams at the lotus feet of our most beloved Bhagwan. Loving Sairam and greetings to all of you from Prashanti Nilayam. I'm sorry there was a gap in my broadcasts, but I'm happy to be back. I would like to thank all the listeners who have taken the trouble to write, and so many of you have been very tolerant and also quite appreciative of what we are trying to do here. And yet, there are some people who do not seem to quite appreciate our difficulties and constraints. So, I hope you don't mind if I repeat some of the old stuff, in particular the following. The first is, this series is being offered like a talk that a person would give at a science center or Samiti. And I'm doing it that way because making a documentary with, real visuals showing Swami and all that will take a lot of time. Please note, we are very heavily understaffed and we are doing our very best. Now, The Miracle of Pure Love as a narrated documentary would definitely be produced, but not now. It has to be later. And please take it from me that when we do it, it would be such a complete job that all of you would say it was worth waiting for. I'm sure of that. Now, a few words about the book on which this serial is based. Despite our announcements, we continue to receive many requests for the book. And so, we have started making serious efforts to produce a special, affordable cost version that devotees would specially appreciate. And with that preamble, a relatively short one compared to earlier occasions, let me get down to business. I would like to begin by noting the important fact that today, when I am recording, the day is Friday and the date happens to be the 25th of May in the year 2012. I am mentioning this because today marks the 65th anniversary of the day when Swami wrote that famous letter to his elder brother Seshma Raju, to which I have already made a reference. In earlier years, people used to remember 25th May. Now, I don't know how many people remember it, but it is a day we have to remember, and that's why I am beginning my talk by drawing attention to it. Okay. Last time I came up to the point of describing how Swami, after moving to the new mandir which he named Prashanti Nilayam, slowly launched and gave shape to an entirely new daily routine. The core elements of the new routine were, of course, darshan and bhajans. And darshan, as I explained earlier, involved Swami coming to the devotees and moving very closely with them. I don't know how many of you are familiar with the Darshan series brought out by our sister unit, Sai Blossom. There are about 3 or 4 at least, as far as I know, Darshan videos. I was seeing one of them just yesterday, and it's really very beautiful. You have to see to know what I'm talking about. For Swami, darshan was always the highest priority. Not many of the present generation might be aware that in the very early days, Swami used to give a very special darshan very early in the morning, and that was called early morning darshan. I'm sure all of you who have come to Patti are aware of an early morning routine known as Nakar Sankirtan. This Nagar Sankirtan literally means singing in the streets. In practical terms, it means going around the mandir in a procession singing bhajans. Some of you might have even participated in Nagar Sankirtan. This is an old institution and it happens to this day, and this Nagar Sankirtan is done shortly before 6 o'clock in the morning. Back in the old days, after going round, devotees would gather in front of the mandir balcony when Swami would make a brief appearance and bless. They would also give arati. For those of you who are not aware of this practice and are not able to make out what I am saying, I would say, please see the Sai Blossom product titled The Advent. For the benefit of those who might not be aware of this product titled The Advent, this documentary is part one of a multi-part series on the life of Swami. In Advent, there is a beautiful scene of devotees gathering below the balcony of the old bungalow in Vrindavan after Nagar Sankirtan. And there they give arati and Swami blesses. It's a very nice scene. The old bungalow, which I am referring to, used to be Swami's residence in Vrindavan before it was brought down and a new circular building named Trai was built. If you have gone to Vrindavan and after 1985 or so, you would have seen only the Trai. But in that very spot, there used to be an old bungalow, which was called the old bungalow. Okay, going back to what I was saying a little earlier, there in that documentary you can see a beautiful scene where Swami is giving early morning balcony darshan after Nagar Sankirtan. I mention this because in later years this practice stopped both in Vrindavan and Prashanti, except on Christmas morning when Swami would come to the balcony in a white robe and give a very special darshan. This was his way of blessing the thousands of pilgrims who had traveled from various countries just to celebrate Christmas in Prashanti. They could go to Rome, they could go to Jerusalem, and so on. No, but these people would come to Prashanti. And in order to make them happy, Swami would go very early in the morning to the balcony in a white robe and give darshan from that. I have seen many of them, including the last time he gave. And they are really beautiful. Before that, all the pilgrims would enter the darshan area bearing candles. And our students also would be there with candles. So it was a kind of candlelight darshan, shall I say. Okay, so much for the darshan routine, about which I have already made many comments in my earlier talks also. In my last talk, I mentioned another routine called the interview. And today, I would like to say something more about the interview business. For the sake of continuity, let me repeat a bit of what I said last time. I mentioned that every day during darshan, Swami would pick up some people from the darshan line and ask them to go to a room on the ground floor of the mandir for an extended and personal chat. And after asking them to go, Swami would continue with the darshan. And as he went around the darshan line, wherever he saw somebody whom he wanted to call, he will just signal and send that person. Known as the interview, this too became an institution and was very eagerly sought for reasons that would become clear shortly. Now, as he went round, sometimes Swami would simply say go or signal in a particular direction. The command go was very well known to the regulars and they knew exactly what to do. But the first time I heard this command go, I was having darshan in Vrindavan. I stood up and I did not know what to do. I thought Swami was telling me, this is it, mister, you can go back. And actually, I hesitantly started moving towards the exit. Fortunately, all the people nearby who were regulars, after calling me a fool and all that, directed me towards the waiting area where those who were called for interview would go and wait. Now, in Prashanthi Nilayam, the waiting area was the lower veranda just near the room that used to be called the interview room. In later years, this room also came to be called the Korikai room, meaning the room where people ask for boons. Korikai translates as boons. Actually, this room called the interview room served many purposes, including as a small office for Swami. Sometimes Swami used to use it as his office room. As the years passed, people began to come in groups. There would be groups from various parts of India and even overseas. And so, when Swami went around giving darshan, he would spot the newly arrived group leaders and ask, how many? This meant, how many people are there in your group? If the number in the group was small, Swami would call that group for an interview. If the number was large, Swami would simply say later. On one occasion, when Swami asked the group leader how many, the man just shrugged his shoulders. He was a foreigner and said, too many, Swami. Swami just laughed and moved away. On one occasion, I think it was in the mid-90s, I saw Swami call a very big group. The group came to the lower veranda and waited for Swami to finish darshan and return. And Swami would come with letters in his hand. And as he stood at the lower veranda, he would look at the people assembled there and he would say, go in. After which the people would go inside the room through the open door. After everyone had gone in, Swami would enter the room, gently close the door. Normally, this is what he would do. And then the interview would start. But you know what he did on that day? After everyone entered the room, Swami went to the door, closed the door from outside and stood outside facing us with a mischievous smile. All of us who were in the veranda began laughing. And Swami also joined in the laugh, while the people inside were probably panicking. Why has Swami not come inside? And joined them as he normally did. On this day, after having a bit of fun, Swami opened the door of the interview room and went in, I'm sure, much to the relief of the devotees gathered inside. Let me now try to give you a brief description of the interview routine, since it was really an amazing aspect of direct Sai Darshan, shall I say. As I told you, people would all be gathered in the lower veranda waiting for Swami to finish darshan and come back. And when he did, he would of course ask them to go inside. And I'm now talking about Prashanthi Nilayam, by the way. And as I told you, Swami would be the last person to go inside. And as he did, the first thing he would do is close the door behind him. Okay, that is the view from outside. What happens inside? I'll tell you what happens inside because I have some experience of that. The first thing Swami would do is to go to the wall on the left-hand side and turn on the light and the fan. And then he would make his way towards a chair in one corner. Swami's chair used to be in a corner. Now, this interview room was adjacent to the veranda on the ladies' side. If you know your Prashanthi Nilayam, you would know what I am saying. And Swami's chair was close to the window. On the wall there is a window, and Swami's chair was close to the wall. And on the window, there was a window sill. After sitting down in the chair, Swami would place on a small side table the letters he would be carrying in his hand. So that is the very first thing he would do. The next thing he would do is he would lean forward and wave his hand in the famous circular fashion and materialize Vibhuti. And this Vibhuti he would distribute mostly to the women and children, all of whom would be sitting to the left of Swami. Once the Vibhuti routine is over, Swami would typically start by asking everyone where he or she came from. This in case the group consisted of first-timers. By the way, it doesn't have to be one group. It could be an assortment of people who for the purpose of interview are the group of that day. It could be half a dozen families. Sometimes it could be an entire group which has come from some place. It could be Delhi, it could be Bombay, it could be California, whatever it is. Or it could be just individuals who happen to be picked up on that day. Supposing the people who had been called for interview were people who are already known to Swami, then the interview would start in a slightly different fashion. Swami would start with a question which is very typical of him. He would say, Emi Samacharam, meaning what's the news? And this would sort of lead to a general discussion. It could be a discussion on anything. For example, once when I was there, Swami asked a question. How is cancer produced? What causes cancer? And he asked that of a doctor. And you know what the doctor said? He said, Swami, I'm a heart surgeon. I don't know about cancer. Swami was furious. You're a doctor and you don't know about cancer? Anyway, that's a different story. So, after this small chit-chat, suddenly Swami would look at someone or the other and say, what do you want? Often people would not know what to say. And many a time, without waiting for a reply, Swami would do this and out would come a shining object. It could be a ring, a chain, a watch, a japamala, many things. And that, of course, would be a very stunning experience for everyone in the room. And so there's, ooh, ah, and all that. It would be so loud that all these oohs and ahs could be heard outside. And over there, there would be many professional running commentators who would explain to all the public what's exactly happening and making people who are sitting outside a little bit jealous about all those we called for interview. Now, if the object that was materialized was for a particular person, Swami would call that person and give him or her the object. If the object was a ring, Swami would just put that ring or a finger. At times, Swami would not pick anyone in particular, materialize an object, hold it in his hand, and then he will say, all of you see it. So it will be passed around from hand to hand. And as devotees reverentially held the object, they will put it to their eyes and then, kiss it and do such things and pass it on to the next person. But some people would not be looking at this show. They would instead be looking at Swami. And you know what Swami would do? Swami would look at them and whisper, these people are worshipping the object, ignoring the hand that created it. That was Swami's trademark. He would use very ordinary occasions to beautifully slip in a seemingly casual remark that was really a very profound message. Okay, to continue, when the object had done the circular tour and come back to Swami, he would pick someone and give that object to that person. Sometimes he would just call a person and say, you're wearing that ring. Come here, I want to see that ring. And the person would come and the Swami would ask, who gave you the ring? You gave it to me, Swami. Let me see the ring. He will look at it. This has become old. And then you know what he will do? He will hold it like this and blow 3 times. And suddenly that thing will become a shining new ring, entirely changed. And everybody would be stunned. You would put it in the hand of that person. It was not always rings, chains, on watches. Sometimes Swami would see somebody who is not well, visibly unwell. He will ask that person some questions about health. It may be a lady. And then he would create a lingam or some other special object that would help in quick recovery. I don't want you to get the impression that interview was all about materialization and stuff like that. Not at all. Not at all. One important part of the interview session was the lively conversation which Swami would engage in with the people. And it should be very casual, delightful, and full of sparkling humor. Swami would make people laugh like anything. And as people laughed inside, people outside will be wondering what was happening inside. Why are people laughing and all that? Now, for Swami, all this was just raising the curtain. You may say it was a prelude to giving spiritual guidance. This spiritual guidance was done in two stages. He would give some general spiritual advice to all the people gathered in the room. After that, he would take that there may be many families and individuals. He would take all these families into a separate room just behind his chair, one by one. And if there were individuals, he would also take them one by one. There was a curtain separating this inner room and the main room. He would go inside, call that person, talk to that person, and then send that person out, or talk to the family and send that family out. And this was done for a very special reason. Here, there was privacy. And so, people could bare their soul and unburden their problems without any reservation. And invariably, people did this because of their faith in Swami. And when they did so, Swami also responded appropriately with advice, with encouragement, with compassion, words of encouragement, and so on. And believe me, after this session in the inner interview room, people really felt very peaceful, exhilarated, and uplifted. Here it was that devotees could actually experience the love of Swami and the fact that Swami loved helping others without asking anything for himself. That was Swami's trademark. He gave love but asked for nothing. And I can say that it was the interview that made many devotees realize that Bhagwan was not only the living God but also the loving God, as Kasturi so famously called him. Now, since I am on the subject of interviews, let me add a few tidbits before I move on to other topics, that is if I have time for it today. Some interviews would be very special. For example, Swami might have promised a family that he would perform the marriage of their son or daughter, as the case may be. In some cases, these marriages were performed in the traditional style in a hall, in Swami's physical presence. But on other occasions, Swami kept the marriage a private ceremony and performed it inside the interview room. Luckily, we have a very precious videotape of one such marriage. Later, when we present this series as a narrated documentary, we shall make sure that we include bits of that invaluable recording. But for today, I will just offer you some glimpses of what is contained in that tape. I make a special mention of it because, during that marriage, the parents of the bride and the groom, or for that matter, the bride herself, had little clue about what the marriage ceremony actually involved. So Swami took full charge and conducted the entire proceedings. He was the ringmaster. So when the groom and the bride were formally wedded, Swami told them, "You're standing like that. Come on, fall at the feet of your parents, prostrate." And while they were doing so, Swami told the parents, "Don't stand still, bless the couple," and so on. The air was full of love and joy, although the people didn't know what to do, but they enjoyed the function because Swami was in full command. You shouldn't think that Swami was acting like a drill master. Rather, it was like a friendly coach in a drama who is reminding the actors about what to do and say and when. For their part, all those who were present during that marriage couldn't care less a bit about their faux pas and gaffes. They were all in a sort of daze because Swami was performing the wedding. That's all that mattered to them. After the formalities were over, Swami became a bit serious and he told the couple about how to lead an ideal family life. That is the spiritual part. You see, I told you earlier that interview was not all fun, materialization and all that. There was always a serious and very important and very useful spiritual component to it. It was so on this occasion also. This is one aspect of Swami's interview sessions that seldom gets highlighted, and that is why I made a special mention of it instead of merely talking about materializations, amazing cures, and whatnot. Yes, all of those things did happen, and as Swami often said, all those were a mere materialization of his selfless love. It was not a materialization of an object. It was his love that made that object come and appear suddenly. People are talking about the object but not about his love. And as I told you, the advice that he invariably gave was also because of the love he had, the compassion he had, the consideration he had, and the concern he had about those who were present in the room. I cannot wind up this discussion about interviews without a reference to 3 interviews. I picked 3 because each one had its own flavor. And I want to give you an idea about how interviews can be very different from each other. The first incident happened in Prasanthi Nilayam many years ago. It all started with Swami taking in a really huge group. I still remember as the people called for interview began going into the room one after the other, almost endlessly. Some of us sitting close by on the veranda began to wonder, this room is very small. How are all these people going to fit into this room? It's too small. And yet people are continuing to go. What's Swami going to do? Soon some people began to say, oh, Swami would expand the room, and so on. Meanwhile, people kept on going until Swami looked at all of us. He knew what we were thinking. He gave a big enigmatic smile, went in and closed the door. How he made it to his chair, I do not know. I think there were about 50 people and that room was really too small to take 50 people. I suppose they were all packed like sardines. It was a long interview and I really don't know what happened, but finally the door opened and one by one they all came out. It took for a while for the room to empty out, and when all the people who had gone inside had walked out, Swami also came out. But before he came out, he did 2 unusual things. The first was he opened both the doors of the room fully open. This was not something which he normally did. He would leave one door closed and the other door open or three-fourths closed. But on that day, he opened both the doors. Not only that, usually when Swami came out, he would switch off the light and switch off the fan. He was very particular about these things. On that day, he switched off the light but turned the fan full speed. That was very unusual. And when he came out, Swami, as he often did, was wiping his face vigorously. He used to do that regularly, and right standing in front of the door of the interview room, I used to sit nearby because that was the Vice Chancellor's seat. Also, former Vice Chancellors, we all sat together, and I was watching Swami. Now, on this day, Swami made the unusual comment, too many people. Normally, Swami did not say that. Now, even as he was wiping himself and making these comments, there was on the lower veranda, sitting on a chair near the small lion, a VIP. If you know the geography of Prasanthi Nilayam, I am sure you can visualize the scene. Now, I am mentioning this because it so happens that this particular VIP studied in the same college where I studied, and he was 2 years my senior. He studied science like I did, but after finishing his science education, he went into the administrative service and rose very high, held very important posts. And after official retirements, he held other important posts. And finally, at the age of 70 or so, he really retired from public duties. He used to come to Swami once in a while, and he always expected an interview. And it was so this time also. On this particular day, there he was sitting in the chair, waiting and waiting. And finally, when the interview was over and Swami came out, he got up and started walking toward the interview room almost as a matter of right, even before Swami had called him. Now, normally we don't do such things. Unless Swami calls, we don't go. But this man went. It did not occur to him that after a long spell in the crowded room, Swami might not be in a mood for another interview. He just didn't think of those things. Anyway, what happened was, as he started coming close to Swami, said, "Wait, don't be impatient. Too much carbon dioxide." We all laughed. I don't know what the VIP thought, but he was definitely put on hold and shown his place and given the message that with Swami, status never counted and that there are no entitlements. The second interview I wish to speak about shows how amazingly simple Swami could be at times. It happened in Kodaikanal in the year 2003. That year, Swami went from Prasanthi Nilayam to Brindavan for summer, and he took me with him. That was sometime in the middle of March 2003. Sometime in early April, Swami took a plane load of people, literally a plane load, to Kodaikanal. We all flew from Bangalore to Madurai, which is near Kodaikanal, in a chartered Airbus A320, and from Madurai we travelled by road up the hill to Kodaikanal. 80% of Swami's party was made up of students, as always. And besides students, there were 2 or 3 teachers who always accompanied Swami on such trips. They were tour managers, you might say. And there was also a doctor. Swami was very good in logistic management, I tell you. Now, on this occasion, 3 professors of the university were included in Swami's party to trip to Kodaikanal, and I happened to be one of those 3 in Swami's party. Now, Swami's residence in Kodaikanal is known as Sai Sruti. It was inaugurated in 1986 or 87, I don't remember which, and since then has slowly evolved, meaning it was expanded, modified, altered, and so on and so forth. Even so, in the year 2003, there was only one guest room with a capacity of 3 expandable to 4. Since then, of course, there has been many changes. A full guest house has been built which can accommodate about 25 to 30 people. But I'm talking of 2003, when the guest room could officially accommodate 3, but it could be expanded to 4. That is to say, instead of 3 beds, 4 beds could be put. And there were 4 of us that year. Besides me, there was Professor Ramurthy, who was in the Department of Business Administration, Professor U.S. Rao, who was the Dean and also the head of the business school. And besides 3 professors, there was Warden Narsimurthy, whose jobs were many, among which were to act as Swami's translator. As I told you, our room was very small, just enough space for 4 beds, that's all. Now there's a reason why I'm mentioning all this. Right next to our room was a hall, main hall. There was only one hall. And Swami's chair was in that hall. And this chair was close to the wall that separated the main hall from this guest room. So on one side of the hall was Swami's chair, and on the other side of the wall was my bed. So that was all that separated my bed from Swami's chair, one wall. And in this hall, Swami would hold session with the boys, the elders whom he had taken with him to Kodaikanal, and a few visitors who had come to Kodai on their own. That was about the capacity of that hall. At that time it was small. You could squeeze in about 20, 25 at the most. And most of the people present would be students. They would crowd around Swami. It was the Darbar Hall of Swami, one might say, Sai Ki Darbar, as students sing. One day, while talking, Swami suddenly, talking to the group, Swami suddenly decided to give an interview to a couple who had come in as visitors. Nobody knew where he was going to give the interview, because there was no really a proper interview room, at least near the hall. Swami just got up, signaled the couple to follow him, walked into our room through the connecting door and closed the door. So our room, our bedroom, became the interview room. I don't know how it was, but it's really not meant as an interview room, but that's what happened. Later I learned that Swami actually sat on my bed while the couple squatted on the floor. You see, as I told you, there was no place for chair and anything in that room. Just 4 beds and a little space in between for people to walk. That's all. So Swami just sat on the nearest bed. That happened to be my bed. And sitting there, he granted the interview. I didn't know that. When I became aware of that later, I was shocked. You know how a bedroom can be things thrown here and there. And no one had told me that this could be used as an interview room. And later on, luckily no one complained. Swami did not complain, but I was not at all happy. I'm sure things were lying helter-skelter. Maybe a towel was hanging on one side and a suitcase was peeping from under the bed and all that. But using a bedroom as an interview was definitely a first. I don't think Swami had done it before. Now there is a reason why I'm mentioning this, because Swami could be utterly human in the way he conducted himself. And this reminds me of a certain incident that happened in Bombay in March 1999. There was no interview, but I am digressing a bit to mention this particular incident because it again gives you an idea of how human Swami can be. In March 1999, Swami visited Delhi and Bombay. He went from Bangalore, of course. From Bangalore, he flew to Delhi, spent 3 days there, and from Delhi, he flew to Bombay, spent 3 days there and came back to Bangalore. It was a very small party, just about 7 people. And one of those 7 happened to be myself. And another person who was in the group of 7 was Anil Kumar, who was a member of the party because he had the job of being the translator of Swami. In Delhi, we were put together in the same room, and when we came to Bombay, there were very few rooms. We again stayed in the same room. In Bombay, there is a shrine, Dharmakshetra, just like you have Trai Brindavan, Sundaram in Madras, Shivam in Hyderabad. Bombay has Dharmakshetra, which is Swami's official residence. It's a circular building and Swami has rooms there. There are visitors gallery and so on and so forth. We were accommodated in 2 or 3 small improvised rooms, and one of those rooms was where Anil Kumar and I were put up. It was a very small room, it had 2 beds, but there was a chair there. So when we entered the room and put our things down, I asked Anil Kumar, what's this chair? This looks like an ornamental chair, though it's not very big. He said, that's Swami's chair. Oh, I see. But Swami is not going to come to this room, I told him. He said, you can't be too sure. Swami may suddenly come in. These things happen. Anyway, I didn't pay much attention. And we had left things here and there. Of course, I was very careful after Kodaikanal to put the suitcase neatly under the bed, and so was Anil Kumar. But we had done one thing one day. We had bundled up old clothes and left it on the floor near the bed. There was one bundle of soiled clothes that belonged to Anil Kumar and another bundle that belonged to me. It was supposed to be handed to a volunteer who would take it to a laundry, get it cleaned and return. It was about 9:30 in the morning. That fellow had not yet shown up. Swami had given darshan in a public area. He came back to his residence called Satyadev. And around 10:30, Anil Kumar and I were sitting there. Suddenly the door opened, Swami walked in and sat in the chair. But luckily, we got about 10 seconds notice that Swami was coming. And Anil Kumar briskly got up and like an expert football player, he kicked one bag and bundle under his bed and with another kick, he dispatched my bundle under my bed so that when Swami came in, the room was clean. I said, thank God. So Swami sat in the chair. What was the reason for Swami to come? Swami said, of course, the moment Swami came, some of the volunteers, and they were old students, they all came in. Because, this was like an interview room. So our bedroom became an interview room. Swami said, I am here because there are 2 people whom I don't want to see. See, 2 big industrialists had come from the city to Dharmakshetra and they wanted to see Swami. They were not particularly very, I would say, reputed people. They had shady, to put it differently, they were somewhat shady businessmen. And Swami wanted to avoid them. And the moment he knew they were coming, he just came here. So when they came and they said that they wanted to see Swami, they were told Swami is busy. So they waited for some time and then they left because they were very busy people. Until they left, Swami was with us. And the moment he came, we took charge of everything. He became the host. He called for apple, soft drink, and he got the apple cut and began to tell stories and this and that. We were having a wonderful time. I'm just mentioning this to tell you, Swami can be very, very human. And Swami has often talked about the human aspect of the avatar. But he talked about the human aspect of Rama and Krishna. He never talked about the human aspect of himself. Because he rarely referred to him as the avatar. But on that day, we forgot that Swami was God. He was just so very human and just mixing with us like others would do, joking and laughing and all that. And that human aspect can cloud one's judgment. And I've seen many people forget who Swami really was. And when you forget, you know that forgetfulness can last, and then you are in real trouble. It is our responsibility never to forget that Swami was really God in human form and not be fooled by these kind of intimacies. Yes, he was intimate. He was very loving. He was very friendly. That is the nature of God. That is the way he showers love. But at the end of it all, we should not forget who he was really. And those who forgot, their relationship was not the way it should have been, and it affected their lives. I shall not go into the human aspect of the avatar, it will come later on in my talks, but I will now move on to my third story about interviews, which in a sense highlights the divine aspect of Swami. And once in a while, he did give glimpses of the divine aspect. This happened during an afternoon interview session many years ago. And in that session, in the group that went in, there were two people who went on wheelchairs. So when the group people were called in, these people went on their wheelchair, they were helped to go into the room, and then the door closed. Interview started. After a while, the interview was over, and people started coming out. Swami also came out. And then people went out via the lower veranda. Swami also went to the lower veranda. The ladies walked to the ladies' side, while the gents walked along the lower veranda behind where Ganesha's statue used to be. And going along with the party were those two people in the wheelchair, whom I mentioned earlier. Swami suddenly went near one of the chairs and told the person on it, "You don't need a wheelchair, get up and walk." And you know what he did? He just bent down, helped that person to get up. And that man got up. Meanwhile, he told somebody, "Take away the chair." And other people came and held that person and helped that person to walk. And the person walked out. He came in on a wheelchair and he walked out. That was breathtaking. It happened very, very casually. It seemed very normal. But is it normal for a person who has been in a wheelchair for years and years to just get up and walk? I saw that happen, as did so many others present. Of course, there were ooh, ah, and all those exclamations. And Swami, as usual, wiping his face with his handkerchief, said, "This man had an accident 12 years ago. Since then, he was confined to the wheelchair till today." That's what Swami told us. We were all very happy, and so was I. It was so wonderful to see a scene like that and to be a witness to divine power, in action. I tell you, it was really a blessing to be present on that day. At the same time, I said to myself, "Swami, two people went in on the wheelchair, but you have made only one walk. What about the other?" I told that to myself. At that time, I was too immature to realize that I, a mere mortal and pretty low on the devotional scale, had no business to ask questions like that. But I did, because that is what the monkey mind is all about. Anyway, the day ended with one man out of the chair and another man still on it. The story does not end there. Next morning, the other man was called again for an interview, and I was very happy. I told myself, it looks like this man's turn comes in the morning shift. Thinking thus, I eagerly waited to see what would happen after the interview was over and everyone came out. That moment finally arrived. And what did I see? The other man, who I thought would get redemption, was still on the wheelchair. Actually, that person was a resident of the ashram, and he remained on the wheelchair for many years till he passed away. Swami called him for many interviews, and he would talk to him so many times during darshan and all that. But he remained on the wheelchair all his life. What is more important, that man never complained or grumbled, not even once. He never blamed Swami, never. That I found remarkable and a testimony to his loyalty and devotion to Swami. Some people may find all this very strange. Swami was so loving to that man, but why didn't he show his love by curing that man? Is this not unfair? I have seen people commenting on this unfairness and all that. Discussion of this so-called unfairness calls for a talk of its own. I won't go into it. Maybe sometime later I will talk about this. But for now, I hope you would not mind if I stop here for today and pick up from here next time, because already I have spoken for a long time. So with that, let me say goodbye for now and thank you for being with me. God bless all of you and Jai Sai Ram. And as always, let me end by offering this talk to Swami, who made it possible and also orchestrated this talk in his own way. Jai Sai Ram.